Welcome back. The General Industries Workers Union of South Africa has raised concerns over what it calls the anemic 0.6% fourth quarter GDP growth at a time the annual population growth is approximately 1.3%, leading to negative per person growth. Now, the union says workers bear the brunt of job losses and unemployment, fiscal crisis, as well as economic responses like high interest rates and systematic state failure. GIWUSA's president, Mametla Sebei, is joining us for more. Mametla, thank you so much for your time this evening. Now, what specific aspects of the GDP report raise concerns for GIWUSA regarding South Africa's economic growth trajectory?
Well, two fundamental things, Katlego. One is that, as you correctly pointed out, right, the growth of 0.6%, which is less than 1.3 increase in population, means basically there is a real decline in GDP per capita, that is per head of population, because when the population grow by greater margins, than the GDP, it means that there is less and less to share. Of course, that, assume that everybody has an equal share in the wealth of the economy, which is not true. But I think the most fundamental thing for us is that despite all the zigzags, the twists and turns, the reality is the medium to long-term trajectory of South African economy is that of decline. And I think there are every indication that you can imagine. Think about it. The key, that is what we call the commanding, the commanding heads of the economy. All of them are falling without exception. I mean, look at manufacturing. In 1990, right, around the 90s when the ANC took power, manufacturing used to account for 24% of the GDP. In 2023, it was down to 13%. Mining output itself has fallen by 25% since 2005. The construction industry, which used to be, once a pillar of working class employment, has actually declined by 70% since 2016, leading to 250,000 job losses. And I can go on and on to mention industry by industry. And the only industry that has been growing are what we call the service, particularly the financial service sector, as a result of the financialization of the economy. So our economy is particularly growing, at areas that are not creating jobs, but if anything, massively transferring wealth from, the working class, the middle class people to the tiny elite. And I think that is because the sector that has been growing, it's financial markets, the equity markets, the stocks, the real estates, all of which are subject of speculation in the financial markets and so on. And when government impose high interest rates, basically they benefit these sectors of the economy. That is, people that are owning stocks, people that are having investments in equity markets and so on. They gain when the interest rates goes up. And who stand to lose is basically small businesses, is basically working class people who are indebted to the tune of over 2 trillion in this country, alongside the middle class who are paying bonds, a loan on vehicles, and every credit facility that they have. That is a problem that we have.
So given this economic context that you've just painted, how then do you anticipate that this will impact, especially with negotiations around wages and the working conditions for members?
That's the point. The problem here, in actual fact, with this and deindustrialization is precisely because of the poverty of the black working class in particular, that we can't industrialize. And what do I mean by that, right? So South Africa has, in the past, particularly 30 years, has promoted this model of an export-led growth, where basically we're told, no, if we accept slave conditions, if we accept austerity imposed by a government that has begun to commodify, commercialize, public services, and that's the reason we have a huge tariff hikes for water, for electricity, but also cutbacks on the provision of many other services, right? That all will be well, because as then, the costs are down for business in terms of reduced taxation for corporate tax, like under apartheid, corporate tax was over 50%. Under this government, it is down now to 27%. But also that with wages being down, labor broking and other forms of casualization, that all will be well because more jobs will be created. That has not happened. If anything, lots of areas where South Africa used to have big manufacturing, clothing, textile, and all of that, have been completely decimated by cheap imports, from China, but also they've been outcompeted in other industries. At the same time as the poverty, particularly of the black working class, it means that a lot of local, small and medium manufacturing enterprise, people that ordinarily would be manufacturing what? Washing machines, drying machines, many other household equipment, they can't because black working class people can't afford it. 13% of the population in informal settlements, many of them don't have a TV. Many of them don't have, the stove, the washing machine, right. All those kind of basic, equipment, as well as furniture and all of that. That is what makes it impossible to reindustrialize the economy, alongside the fact that mining and other key sectors of the economy are plundered by the foreign-owned monopolies that are engaged in extractivism, not beneficiating minerals, and of course, expatriating all the hundreds of billions of profits, both legally but also illicitly, which is the reason we have a 60 billion or 1.4 trillion rands losses in illicit financial flow out of this country.
So you speak about these foreign-owned monopolies. We are seeing the diplomatic spat between the USA and South Africa. What's your take in terms of a position that South Africa can take so that South Africa can come out of the spat in a better place? Can we reconfigure and find ourselves in a place where we are able to fund for some of our own projects that could benefit, especially the workers that are on the ground?
Well, I mean, what is happening is a warning, and in fact, a crushing confirmation of what we've always argued, that integrating and completely subordinating South African economy to imperialism in a way that the ANC has done in the past 30 years, where when you look at all the sectors dominated by foreign-owned, multinational corporations, completely reliant, on exports. I mean, look at the industry that is threatened, right? AGOA, 80%, 87% of the benefits goes to processed minerals, that is, products of the smelters, but also, the automotive industry. This is industries that are completely monopolized by the US and its Western allies. I mean, there is the US, Germany, Japan, and in the case of the smelters, mainly it's Australia and so on. Now, these are industries, by the way, that are already heavily subsidized by South African government, right? When you go to automotive industry, South African government is paying over 114,000 rand a year per job in that industry. And, for what? So that we are manufacturing, basically, we are subsidizing these American, German, Japanese motor companies so that they manufacture vehicles, all of which are destined mainly to the very same countries, the US and so on and so on, right? Now, there's an alternative to that, right? Why in the first place are we spending so much money, from public fiscals to subsidize private profits, right? For manufacturing that in many ways does not even benefit South Africans. And we've got to obviously say, now AGOA is almost gone. But what is an alternative? That very manufacturing capacity in the auto production industry is the foundation on the basis of which we can repurpose and build an industry that can manufacture vehicles particularly, for a massive need for public transport in this country. Because what is actually happening there is not even manufacturing, it's assembly. So if you repurpose and redirect the manufacturing capacity in that industry to ensure there's real manufacturing of buses, of trams, of trains, all of that. Not only will you save the existing jobs, without this massive repatriation of profits that are, brought about by massive subsidies from the state, you would have an industry that is actually saving South African people and making sure our public transport system are actually sustainable, both socially, economically, as well as ecologically, at the same time as creating many more jobs from real manufacturing than the assembly. This is only one of many examples that I can give. But for that to happen, you've got to bring that industry under public ownership, because on the basis of the foreign monopoly, monopoly domination of that industry, is basically used as a source of assembly through a cheap labor and purely for extraction of that cheap labor for the purpose of import to markets that are the real destination of their product, that is Americas and all those things and so on. So we need the economy that can work for the working class people, for a vast section of the population, and meet the real needs of the public infrastructure in this country, for which there is a massive backlog from housing, think about it, Katla. Why are we losing over 250,000 jobs since 2016 in the construction industry, when there is 3.7 million houses to be built, when there is roads, when there is bridges, when there is schools, that is healthcare, educational facilities that are in chronic shortages in many black working class areas?
Yes, certainly is. Mametlu Sibe, we have run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us this evening and just giving us your insights.